Welcome to Devotions Before Dawn. My name is Matt, and together we'll be sharing devotions every morning, Monday through Friday, one chapter a day until we've gotten through the entire Bible. That's 1,189 devotionals over the next 4.5 years. I look forward to this journey of growth with you, so make sure you're subscribed. Now let's get started. You were designed for faith, family, and fulfillment. And what I mean by that third one is a significant truth that you might not see coming. So make sure you stay until the end. Genesis chapter 10, life after the flood. We're actually going to start in verse 8 and read through verse 12, and that's going to be the primary focus of our study today. However, at the end, we will read every verse because we are studying and reading every verse of every chapter of the Bible. So let's dive into verse 8 of Genesis chapter 10, where we see a very interesting historical figure. Cush was the father of Nimrod, that's the guy, who became a mighty warrior on the earth. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. That is why it is said, like Nimrod, a mighty hunter before the Lord. The first centers of his kingdom were Babylon, Uruk, Akkad, Kelna, and Shinar. And from that land he went to Assyria, where he built Nineveh, Riboth-ur, Kela, and Resen, which is between Nineveh and Kela, which is the great city. So this guy, Nimrod, a mighty warrior, we see this phrase, he was a hunter before the Lord. And that means he was a hunter in the face of God, like he's shaking his fist in the face of the Lord. He is upstaging the Lord. He wants to replace the Lord. He wants to overthrow the Lord. He does not like God, and he is in direct contrast to God. He's living boldly in rebellion right in the face of God. It was like when I was a child and I realized the spanks of my mother don't hurt anymore, and I stood up to her. She told me something, and I said, "What are you going to do about it?" We were at church. It's like, "You can't hurt me anymore." I literally said that to her. I was trying to overthrow her authority in my life, and I thought I could do it. So she said, "That's it. That's a spanking, young man." And she took me into the bathroom at church, and she gave me a spank. And I laughed. I thought it was so funny because she couldn't hurt me anymore. But then she ran her hand under the water of the faucet and then spanked me again, and I can still feel those chills go from my butt cheeks right up my spine to the base of my neck because it hurt, and my laugh went, I'm sorry. But I thought I could overthrow her. I thought her authority meant nothing anymore. I thought I was bigger and stronger than her. I wasn't. This is Nimrod, a mighty warrior on the earth, a hunter in the face of God. Now, some say he was a hunter of animals. However, the fact that it points to him being a mighty warrior, you don't war against animals, and he's living in defiance of God. Many believe this term hunter means he was a murderer, a killer of men. He had no regard for the Lord, for the design of God, for the calling of God, and for the authority of God, and he was trying to overthrow God. In the next chapter, it appears he rallies the people in the plain of Shinar to build the Tower of Babel, trying to reach the heavens and overthrow God. So he is very, very rebellious. And what do we see in his life? He is trying to overcome and overthrow the design of God. Over and over again in the book of Genesis, what has God's command been? Be fruitful, multiply, and fill the earth. To spread out over the surface of the earth. And what he's doing here is in direct contrast to that calling. The Lord said to spread out and cover the face of the earth with life, with human life. And he does the opposite. He starts building major urban centers. He builds all of these cities. He is doing this in defiance of God. He is saying we are going to rally in these cities and we don't need God anymore. What do we need God for? Look what we can build. We don't need you, God. And he wanted to overthrow God. There's nothing wrong with living in urban centers, but I do want to say you're not born for that. We're going to cover that here in a little bit. I want to make this point first. Stop fighting God. Get out of God's face. Maybe it doesn't apply to very many of you, but there may be some listening to this who you've picked a fight with God. Or maybe in the past, you've been one of those people who said, "Nah, I don't talk to God anymore. I got a problem with God, or God did this, or God didn't do that. So you're living in defiance of God. You're fighting God. You're living in God's face. You're trying to overthrow God's authority in your life. That's no good. Because where's Nimrod today? He's a pile of dust and bones. All the great cities and kingdoms that he built, where are they today? They've all fallen. No matter how great, how famous, how powerful, how rich, how successful we become in this world, it will not last. So stop fighting God. Get out of God's face and realize ultimately God wants what's best for you. Don't live to build earthly empires. Don't spend your whole life and all of your focus and all of your God-given energy building a business so much so that it just overtakes your life. That is not what you were designed for. So stop fighting God. If there's something you got a problem with, let it go and trust God's plan. Get out of God's face. And don't live to build earthly empires. Go with God's flow. We see God's flow, like I mentioned in the beginning, God's design for your life. Number one is faith. John 15:5 says, I am the true vine, you are the branches. Apart from me, you can do nothing. Find that life and that fruitful abundance of life that comes from connecting with God through faith. I am the vine, you are the branches. If I'm the branch, I can't do anything if I'm separated from the vine. I need to make sure my faith comes first. And we see family over and over again in Genesis. God tells them, be fruitful and multiply. Build families. Invest time in family. And maybe you are finding yourself in a place in life where you don't have a biologically connected family. Find family in the family of faith. What I like to say is at the cross, those who are not family become family. And I get this from the Gospel of John. When Jesus is on the cross and he looks at John, he says, John, behold your mother. And John looks to Mary. And then he says to Mary, Mary, behold your son. And he's not talking about himself. Jesus is talking about John. He's saying to John and Mary, after I am gone, you treat each other like family. Live for faith. Live for family. And thirdly, live for fulfillment. And I mentioned it earlier, filling the earth. It's not what you might have thought when I said it in the introduction. To spread out and slow down. That's what you were designed for. We are not designed to live in major urban centers, hustling and bustling, concrete and sirens and screens and phones and internet and all that comes with it, all the technology, all the pollution, all the noise, all the chaos, all the stress, all the hustle. That's not what you were designed for. Is it sinful to live in an urban center? I don't think it is. In fact, there are great ministries that are taking place there, but I will say this, it adds extra stress to your life. It adds extra distractions to your life. It invites chaos into your life, and there's so much going on there. It is important to note that you were designed for nature. You were designed to spread out. You were designed to have space. You were designed to breathe fresh air, to eat fresh food from the ground, and as we saw previously in Genesis, even of the animals, but that you have raised. And I know we can't all live like that. I don't even necessarily live like that, but I recognize that that is God's design. Nimrod was fighting God's design. He said, God said spread out, so let's all rally together and build these massive cities and get God out. And where do we see many people who are fighting God? It's usually in our urban centers. Here's why it's important. It's not sinful to live in a city. But if you live in a city, it's important to know your body by design craves nature, fresh air, your feet in the wet grass, touching rivers, swimming in oceans, climbing up mountains, walking and hiking trails, breathing fresh air. And if you want to be a healthier person who finds more fulfillment in life, especially if you live in a busy area, take time to get out into nature, to breathe God's air, to eat good, wholesome, healthy food to the best of your ability, to get off the screens, to get off the phones, to get away from the televisions and quiet the urban life as much as you can, even if it's for a day or two or a weekend or a week at a time. It will so nurture your being because that's what you were created for. Genesis is very clear. Be fruitful, multiply. Walk with God, walk with family, and spread out over the surface of the earth. Have that space because that's what you were designed for. And you'll find a part of you coming to life that might have died. I'm telling you, get a little dirt on your hands. Get a little sweat on your brow. Breathe that fresh, crisp air. Breathe in and breathe out and hear no sirens, no horns, no people, no noise, just the breeze. And you'll find that's good for your soul. So it's not wrong to live in a city, but do understand, you're working against God's design. It's going to be a little bit harder for you than if you have a little bit of space. So, family, faith, fulfillment. Stop fighting God. Don't live to build earthly empires. Live to build that relationship with the true vine. Get plugged in and connected to Jesus. Live for family or those family-like relationships. At the cross, those who are not family become family. And let's make sure we're not living a life in the matrix, so plugged into the computers and the internet and the social media and the drama, the sirens and the screens, that we're missing out on God's design. That's when we're thriving and at our best. When we have our Bible, sitting under a tree, sitting on a rock, maybe sitting at a shore of a lake or the ocean, and we're reading, we're praying, we're walking, we're breathing. That's where we find great, great fulfillment. I'm going to read Genesis chapter 10 from beginning to end because we want to make sure we cover every verse of the Bible together. If I get names wrong, we'll have a good chuckle, but we're going to do this all in one take. Here we go. This is the account of Shem, Ham, and Japheth, Noah's sons, who themselves had sons after the flood. The sons of Japheth were Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, Meshech, and Tyrus. The sons of Gomer, Ashnek, Rephah. Good. There we go, the first one. I was on a roll, though. Togarmah. I should have got that. That was easy. Verse 4. The sons of Javan, Elisha, Tarshish, the Kettites, the Rodanites. That's a thing? The Rodanites? Like rodents? I don't know. Verse 5. From these are the maritime peoples who spread out into the territories by their clans within their nations, each with its own language. The Hamites, the sons of Ham, Cush, Egypt, Put, and Canaan. The sons of Cush, Seba, Havilah, Sebta, Ramah, and Sebtaka. The sons of Ramah, Sheba, and Dedan. Cush was the father of Nimrod, who became a mighty hunter on the earth. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord, and that is why it is said, like Nimrod, a mighty hunter before the Lord. The first centers of his kingdom were Babylon, Uruk, Akkad, Kelna, and Shinar. From that land he went to Assyria, where he built Nineveh. And we studied Nineveh already as we looked at the entire book of Jonah. If you want to listen to that, click that at the end of this video. Rebalth and Kelna and Rezin, which is between Nineveh and Kela, which is the great city. Egypt was the father of Ludites, Anamites, Lehabites, Nephathites, Pathrusites, Cuslahites. From the Philistines came Caphtorites. All right. Canaan was the father of Sidon, the firstborn of the Hittites, Jebusites, Amorites, Girgashites, Hivites, Architites, Sinites, Arvadites, Zamorites, and Hamathites. Well, got through that. Here we go. Later the Canaanite clans scattered, and the borders of Canaan reached Sidon towards Gerar as far as Gaza, then down towards Sodom, Gomorrah, Admah, and Zeboim, as far as Lesha. These are the sons of Ham by their clans, languages, in their territories and nations. The sons also born to Shem, whose older brother was Japheth. Shem was the ancestor of sons of Eber. The sons of Shem, Elam, Asher, Arphaxad, Lud, and Aram. Gotta love Arphaxad. What a guy. Verse 23. The sons of Aram, Uz, Hul, Guthar, and Meshach. Arphaxad, that's our guy. Arphaxad was the father of Selah, and Selah was the father of Eber. The two sons were born to Eber. One was named Peleg, because in his time the earth was divided. The other was named Joktan. Joktan was the father of Almadad, Sheleph, Hazarmaveth, Jerith, Hadaram, Usul, Declael, Obal, Abilel, Sheba, I botched that one, Obimilel, I don't know, Ophir, Havilah, and Jobab. Who is still listening to this? If you're still listening to this, put a little winky face in the comments. That's pretty impressive. All these were the sons of Joktan. Or just write wink if you don't know how to do that. Verse 30. The region where they lived stretched from Mesha towards Sephar in the eastern hill country. These are the sons of Shem by their clans, languages, and territories and nations. These are the clans of Noah's sons according to their lines of descent within their nations, from these nations spread out all over the earth after the flood. And as much as we kind of had a little fun trying to read through those names, and a few times I kind of laughed, these are very important because it accurately puts forth the lineage from Adam all the way to Christ. It's very, very important that these are documented and documented accurately. Also, if I ever have a son, Arphaxad is the name I'm going with. Arphaxad, it just looks tough. It just looks tough. But just to review, stop fighting God. If you got something you're fighting him on, get out of his face. Repent of that. Don't be like Nimrod, just fighting in the face of God. And don't live to build earthly empires. Go with God's flow. That's faith, that's family, and fulfillment. That's where you'll find a fruitful life. Spreading out, building family. And if you don't have family, those at the cross become family. And faith, staying connected to Jesus. That's where we will be fruitful. We're not designed for all the sounds, all the screens, all the noise, all the chaos. This speed of life is not what we were designed for. It's not wrong because we're living within the culture God has placed us, and we need to reach the people around us. There's nothing wrong with it. But just know that you will benefit greatly every time you can get out and just experience life the way that God had intended. That is Genesis 10. Arphaxad out. Thank you for sharing this time with me today. If you got something out of this, make sure you hit that thumbs up button. Send this to a friend. Consider posting it on your social media. And before you go, let me know on a scale of 1 to 10 how you're doing. 0 being absolutely miserable, 10 being I'm on top of the world. And some good news is we will do this all again tomorrow.